All right, before we turn the page to West Virginia, I'm going to give you all an update on James Mitchell. Um, After more evaluation after the game, our medical staff ordered an MRI on him yesterday morning. It turns out um, he's going to have season-ending knee surgery. We're disappointed for him. I mean, what a great leader, a great young man, not just a great player, but team captain, leadership council member. Um, just incredibly disappointed for him. I know how much this football team means to him. I mean, that's immediately where his thoughts went. I've had great conversations with his mom and dad, and our medical staff will do a great job taking care of him. James is in a good place. Obviously, he's disappointed, but as we all are. But these things sometimes happen in football, and we've got to do a great job rallying around James. I think he needs us, and we still need him to be a part of this football team. And we've got good depth in that room. James has served as a great leader in that room for many years now, and Gallo and Drake and Blaker and Eller will need to step up and kind of collectively fill that role for us. So I know they'll do a great job. They've been working hard for some time, and James has done a great job serving as a great example for those guys. So onward we move to West Virginia, a rivalry game, a trophy game on the road. Incredible challenge for our football team, not just our first road game, but to play in the environment we're about to go play in against a quality team. Coach Brown's done a great job down there. I mean, they're a couple turnovers away from being undefeated, and I know the environment will be electric and emotions will run high. They are really good on the defensive front and really good in the skill positions. It's pretty obvious from watching the film. Explosive on special teams, and we'll have to do a great job. We'll have to have a great week of preparation, kind of in all areas, to get ready for this one. But we're excited for it. We're excited for the opportunity, the challenge to take this team on the road in a hostile environment and see how we can perform. This is part of why you want to play the game is to have a chance to go play in these types of games, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Justin, I know James had an NFL decision and came back last year. Do you feel especially bad for a guy like that that's put so much in the program and had quite a bit on the line this year as well?
Well, I mean, he still has decisions that he can make, and we don't need to worry about that right now. I mean, right now it's about James getting healthy. I make no bones about it. I think the world of James Mitchell and his family. So, right now his thoughts are centered on this football team, having this surgery and getting healthy. And then when we get down the road, we'll talk about all of those things. So certainly there are a lot of reasons to be disappointed for James, a lot. But I think just listening to him talk and listening to his dad talk, the number one reason is just this football team. So we'll get him fixed, get him healthy, keep him around this team, keep him involved, and have several discussions down the road about what all this means.
With an injured player, are they allowed to, do you normally have them travel with James being a captain and things like that? Does it, case-by-case basis, like you said, keep him around program? Do you want him then, if he's healthy enough to travel, be on those road trips and be kind of a part of that? I don't know what you normally do.
Yeah, well, we'll evaluate it. The biggest thing is James's safety. Like, the sidelines is not exactly a place for somebody that can't get out of the way and all that sort of stuff. So James is a special case, obviously. And when he's through surgery and a little more mobile and that sort of stuff, I've already talked to him. I talked to him this morning. for about 30 minutes, and that was one of the things that we discussed. And when he's able to move around a little bit better, then we want him back out there.
Any update on Keontae Jenkins, and then how did you think Tate Daly played in his absence?
I anticipate, of course, again, I'm certainly not a medical person. You asked me after the game about James, and all indications were that everything was fine, and obviously I was wrong. But the indications I'm getting on Keontae is that he'll be back full go this week, ready to go. Tate did a good job when he was in there. I like that, between Keontae and Tay and Jalen Stroman continuing to develop in there. There's three guys that I think have a chance to really help this team.
James had a pretty special, unique skill set. Are there things you have to tail back with guys like Nick and Drake, or what do you feel like they can bring to the table behind him?
Well, I feel good about both of those guys. Obviously, they're veteran players. It's one of the few places where we have veterans backing up veterans. James is a unique person. There's no replacing it. It'll have to be it'll have to be a group effort, certainly. And some of those things ebb and flow week to week based on defensive schemes and matchups. But there's no replacing a guy like James, but I think collectively those guys have a chance to fill those shoes.
You guys played a lot of young guys. You talked about it post game. I'm curious about Dean and Keyshawn at linebacker. They got a pretty good amount of snaps. What do you like from them in their time that they played?
Well, they played well, and we got them in there early in the game, which I thought was great. It was great to get Allen and Dax a little rest and let those two guys. They've earned that playing time, and through their practice, through great fall camps, understanding of what we're trying to get accomplished. And I didn't see much drop-off when they went in there. They performed at a high level. I was happy for those guys, excited for them, and we'll need them as the season continues.
In terms of West Virginia's offense, what have you seen from their veteran quarterback? He's been in a lot of games. And what do you think their strengths are offensively right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's a kid that can really throw the football. He's kind of from a football family. His brother came out of Lubbock years ago, back when I was at TCU. You can just tell he has a really good understanding of what they're trying to get accomplished. And, they've got guys on the outside that can go make plays. A good screen team. He gets the ball out of his hands, and they've made plenty of plays in the passing game. So a dangerous, dynamic group that can put points on the board in a hurry.
What about defensively?
Defensively, to me, the defensive line stands out. I mean, these are particularly 55 and 90, very disruptive, moving every play. They're in the backfield, it seems like all the time. And, it starts with that and, bleeds through to the kind of a unique scheme and bleeds through to the rest of their secondary and their linebacker core. But those guys up front, in my opinion, kind of make the whole thing go.
All right, let's go to Hank on Zoom.
Hey, Justin, I have kind of a league question. The ACC has struggled in non-conference Power 5 games so far. How much responsibility, and obviously object one is to win the game, but how much responsibility do you feel, if you do, to kind of represent the league when you play a marquee game like this?
Well, we always understand that we are representing our league, and we want the other members of the league to do well. Obviously, when they're not playing us, but it's something we're all conscious of. It's not something that we drive home endlessly with our team. I think I personally like the playing teams from other conferences. I hope that I hope we don't get to a day where we just play conference games. I think that's a unique appeal to playing teams either from across the country or, in this case, in our region that are in a different league. I think that's fun for the fans to see the different matchups. So I hope college football never gets away from it. But there's certainly a level of conference pride that goes with each trip on the road or at home when you're playing somebody from another Power 5 conference.
And when you play a team in an atmosphere like you will have at West Virginia, does playing in the same kind of atmosphere at Lane Stadium benefit you guys?
Well, I mean, I think it's a reference point for flipping it in your mind, like what it's going to be like. The key is, you should relish the opportunity to play in a game that's going to be celebrated. You also have to understand you've got to keep your focus. And what happens to teams or individuals is they get in the arena and emotions are amplified, whether you're on the road or at home, and they can either be amplified from a positive standpoint or amplified from a negative standpoint. And the key is to just be where your feet are and play the next play. And certainly you can use those things to fuel you, but you have to stay focused on the next task, which is the next play. And sometimes you see people get carried away with their emotions, either too high or too low, and lose their focus on what they're trying to do. And all of the things that go on outside, in the stands and all that sort of stuff, just amplify those feelings that we all have when we're on the field. And the key is to use them to fuel you, but not use them or not let them distract you.
Thank you.
David Teal.
Justin, have any of your coaching colleagues or even your athletic director given you a hint of what that atmosphere at Mountaineer Field might be like Saturday at noon?
Yeah, I think we have a good understanding. We have several guys that have played in this rivalry. It's kind of an interesting rivalry. It's a rivalry that the players that are playing in the game don't have a lot of context to the rivalry, right? Because it's not a recent one. Obviously, we played in 17 on a neutral field, but it's been a little dormant for a little while, at least for recent history. So I think it's incumbent upon us to educate our guys about what it is like and what it was. And we've got several former players that have been involved in the rivalry on our staff in various capacities that can help inform myself and our football team what it's going to be like.
And you mentioned the dynamic nature of West Virginia, and that includes special teams. What were they able to do, particularly on what was a 98-yard kickoff return, granted against an FCS?
Well, they looked pretty good against Maryland too, returning kicks. The guy they've got back there is pretty special, pretty dynamic. He hits it about 8 million miles an hour and makes guys miss, and really attacks the coverage team with reckless abandonment. He's hitting that sucker downhill. So we'll have to do a great job. You give talented skill players like that just a little bit of crease, and next thing you know, it's a huge momentum swinging play. So it'll be a huge area of focus for us, but it's been an area of focus for us for some time. It's not something that we're just now going to decide to spend time on. We've got a lot of sweat equity invested in our coverage units over the years and months leading to this opportunity.
And then just one more quick one on Tech West Virginia. Are you aware of any of the history of that rivalry? Specifically, I'm wondering if you know about the 99 game in Morgantown that preserved Tech's undefeated season.
The field goal and Mike Vick running down the sidelines. Yeah, I've seen that play a few times. I've talked to it seems like I've talked to a lot of people that were there. I'm not sure they were all actually there or if they just claimed that they were there. But that's a moment that that lives in Virginia Tech lore that was I guess not just dramatic but also meaningful. And I've actually enjoyed listening to the stories of of people that were actually there, that made the trip, that enjoy kind of reliving those moments.
Trust me, I was there too.
Aaron McFarland.
Hey, Justin, given what you said about the dynamic athletes they have, I would imagine tackling in space would be paramount this week. How do you feel about your team tackling thus far, and maybe how it compares to last year's team?
Well, I would say it's dramatically improved from a year ago. I felt like by the end of the year, we were in a little better shape last year. But, that's a byproduct of a lot of things. It's a byproduct of technique. It's a byproduct of effort. And maybe the number one thing it's a byproduct of is being in the right position. It's very difficult to get skill players, tackling and blocking in the open field, let me backtrack, are two of the most difficult things to do in football. And there's more of it in today's game than there's ever been. It used to be essentially the game was played in a phone booth, and now it's played in a parking lot. So there's more blocking and tackling in open field, which is the most difficult thing to do. And I think a byproduct of being good at tackling in the open field or tackling really good skill players is being in the right position, eliminating some of that space the best that you can. And then there's some obvious technique involved in that. So I think we've made improvement. It's something we work on every single week, even during the season, not versus live people, but it's been a point of emphasis throughout the spring, throughout fall camp, and it'll certainly be put to the test this week.
Anybody else for Coach Travis?
Hey, Coach, I know you said Saturday after the game you wanted to watch the tape before kind of passing judgment on Braxton. After doing that, what did you see? Did you feel like there were some opportunities that he had?
Well, I mean, when I look back on it, he made a bunch of plays, a whole bunch of plays back there running around. I think it's incumbent on us as coaches to continue to craft and mold things to give him an opportunity to go make plays. I think as he continues to feel comfortable with when to turn the ball loose, cut it loose, hopefully we become more efficient. And so he is doing what we're asking him to do in terms of taking care of the football, valuing the football, handling the operation, and he is making some plays. But I think there's a balance for all of us in terms of what we're asking him to do, how we're asking him to do it, and his comfort level with being able to kind of cut it loose and go play freely while still being a responsible steward of the football, which is always the difficult balance in that position. I mean, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to do because there are plays out there, but some of it is vision, and some of it is anticipation, some of it is confidence, some of it is trust, and all of those things kind of play together to really cutting it loose. But I can tell by watching him compete that he's in it, and he's tough and he's hard-nosed. He's doing all the preparation work. I just think as coaches, we got to continue to kind of find that happy medium for him to help him be the efficient player that we know he can be on a consistent basis.
Hey, Coach, we've been talking about the atmosphere of West Virginia this morning. This is really your first true road game since the pandemic with fans all around you not rooting for you. What do you tell your kids to handle that? Because it's been a while.
Well, you're right, it will, and we'll need to do some work simulating some of that this week. But it has been a while, and I think the key is the things that we talked about earlier in terms of we should relish the opportunity to play in a game like this with the tradition that these two teams have, with the not just a trophy, but the things that are at stake in this game. It's awesome opportunities. This is why you do all that work in the offseason. So we should relish the opportunity, but we also have to understand we can't get carried away with it. And when you play on the road in a hostile environment, it just enhances all your feelings, all your emotions. And sometimes you can be up by 14 and the other team can kick a field goal, and it sounds like and feels like you're down by 21. You just got to continue to stay in the moment and play the next play. And in an encouraging aspect of that is we are an older team. We should be able to handle all that. You know, we should be able to understand that part of it and kind of be where our feet are.
I know some teams play Enter Sandman at random times to simulate your crowd.
I never understood
I
that
don't either. But
because it's before the game, right?
You don't have to play it during the game. But what do you guys do to simulate the road out?
Oh, we have the worst sounding like white noise that you've ever heard in your life. It's awful. You can't. From me to you, you can't hear me. We played in the indoor, but it sounds like. I mean, it's crowd noise, but it's very difficult to communicate. I mean, I would say almost impossible for you to hear me when that's on. That's so much better than music. It really forces you to focus on whatever we're doing, how we're communicating. That's been the best that I've found in terms of simulating that. But you can't do it all practice because you can't line anybody up. You know, you can't line the scout team up because they can't hear you. So you got to, do it some and.
You just do it at random time then? Like
No, not random times, scripted times. Like, hey, these periods we need crowd noise. These periods we've got to be able to teach something. Like, you're gonna have to be able to communicate on the field. So we'll shut it off then. And like, we play music during practice, but it's not up very loud. Like, it's up during stretch, and then we just turn it down. It's just kind of background music. But specifically for crowd, we have this kind of general crowd noise that's very, it's very difficult to hear.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
You bet.